Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program The Journey Begins, Part 11. We are blasting off from the KSC here at 4 times time acceleration for the usual reasons. In the latest of our rockets, something a bit familiar but a bit different, and that's because this is the Darwin Mark III, the latest and probably the last in our Darwin series of rockets. You might remember the Darwin Mark II, of course, the rocket that took us on so very many missions to Minmus. Well, this is the Mark III, and it will be taking us to the moon with all the extra Delta V requirements that a return journey there involves. At the controls is Valentina Kerman. Jebediah was the first Kerbal to set foot on Minmus. It's only fair and it's Valentina's turn, so Valentina will be the first to set foot on that grey and rocky body. The Mark III behaving quite well here. Still a little squirrely, requires a firm nudge now and again to keep it on that 90-degree heading, but behaves a lot better than the Mark II used to. I'm not sure how the tricoupler versus the quadcoupler affects things, but clearly there's a bit of a difference. So here you see, as we get towards apoapsis, we circularize our orbit, and we make some fine adjustments. And now I think it's time to leave 4 times time acceleration, slow things down, and take you through events at a more regular pace. Okay, so before I forget, it's time to extend these solar panels. Another little upgrade over the Mark II here, rather than just the sort of load of solar panels we just coated the fuel tank with. Right, so I suppose it's time to start planning some manoeuvres. We want to go to the moon. How far are we off? 0.4... Might be worth doing a quick plane change just to make sure everything's nice and lined up. And I don't start getting a little twitchy-eyed, which might be the real reason. Oh, nuts. Here we go. There, that'll do. Get ourselves pointed towards the manoeuvre node, and then we can start heading round there. Originally I thought I'd be going to the moon a lot sooner than this, but we'd just gone to Minmus at an absolute load, so I thought probably best go and do something else. But now we sort of need science. We've spent the last few episodes sort of dealing with our long-term science needs. We've got our little science station in orbit. We've got it doing some research, about 3,500 by the time it does that, and by the time that's finished I'd imagine we'll have more for it. But I was looking around at other things we need to do with the space program, and oh, spot on. Undeservedly proud of myself for that. Let's get ourselves pointing prograde. Looking at other things, we need to do a bit of housekeeping around the place. A few bits and bobs need doing. But in order to do that, there's a few new parts we need. So I thought, we've taken care of our long-term science, we need to sort of take care of our short-term science, because we do need some now. Where is the moon? There is the moon. Let's add a maneuver. Get ourselves out there. So we are going to the moon finally to try and grab ourselves a bit of science, get the things done that we need to get done, and then we can push on to other things. Other planets, not just little moons close to our own planet, but I am not doing well at this. Where are we? 14.7. Need it down to about 13.5 million to get. That'll do. Get a decent free return trajectory. There we go. What's our periaps there? 23,000. Yeah, I want to get quite close in on this. So let's time accelerate round there. Because as I said, we don't want to be hanging around just arsing around with the moons and Kerbin's planetary system forever and ever. We're looking further out. We're looking to go further afield, and just trying to get ourselves onto the firmest foundation we can before we get there. We needed to do a couple of things just to tidy up around the place. As I said, a bit of housekeeping, just so that we're really ready to, really should get pointed towards that manoeuvre node. Just so we're ready to go when the time comes. 21 seconds. Time accelerate a bit further. And I bet you that 21 seconds is going to adjust itself pretty significantly by the time we get to it. Nope. Okay, did well for once. Some people might also be asking, why am I using sort of a Darwin Mark III? Why have I made a new Darwin where I've got the more advanced Brunel launchers now? Surely I could have done something with them, something a bit more sort of Apollo style, separate lander and all that. Well, I did kind of consider that. How are we doing? That'll do. I did consider that. I did plan to do that originally, but well, I started to try and think through the mission and sort of how that would go. And the main issue came to the science experiments. Sort of how I would fit them all on the lander, how I would get all the experiments back onto the little command module and all that. And in the end, I decided, well, the Darwin can do the job. It's just going to be a less of a pain in the arse to do the Darwin. So that's what we did in the end. So I suppose I should start time accelerating forward to get to the moon. And I will cut this needless bit of travelling out, and I will see you there. So here we are in the moon's sphere of influence, and now it's time to start getting some manoeuvres underway. Well, not straight away, but shortly. Let's get ourselves pointed retrograde. Let's get the craft turned so that we give our solar panels the maximum solar sunlight exposure, and then we can time warp forward a bit to get us towards that periapsis. Not quite as colourful a backdrop as it has been in previous missions, but I'm sure we'll cope. Where are we? About 6 minutes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Start bringing it down there. Get ourselves pointed retrograde. I'm going to do this from the map view, actually. And let's start bringing that apoapsis down. Where are we? So where's this? 24,000. So we want to go a little bit closer than that. Keep going. A little closer. 24,000. 24,000. That'll do. We're not doing even a full orbit before we start our descent. So let's set our maneuver node just there. Not a proper maneuver node. I'm just going to leave that there as a marker, just for where we want to be when we start our deorbit burn. Going to the moon just so much easier than going to Minmus. What with all the with the massive plane change and the fact you can't do a full free return trajectory. I mean, we won't need to do a full free return trajectory here. We didn't need to because, well, we're landing on the planet, so we could have just taken off whichever way we fancied. But I always like to do it just a bit of a challenge, maybe almost a bit of realism, because it's how they always have done sort of missions to the moon, just in case something goes wrong. So let's get a landing site. Somewhere in that crater is what I'm aiming for, just as it presented itself as the obvious landing site there. So we are on a collision course with that. So let's see where we are here. Let's time accelerate forward a little bit to we're closer to the business end of this mission. Just coming in over that crater now. So one of the first things we need to do is actually open up the little service bay here, and in there, for those of you who were watching a few videos ago, you'll know what this is about, a little empty fuel tank in the landing vehicle, just because with the Darwin rockets you never really tend to drain this second stage completely. So there's a bit of wasted fuel, so we're going to reclaim some of that. And also means we've increased the delta V of the landing vehicle while adding a negligible mass to the launch vehicle. 0.0375 tons. Yeah, absolutely nothing in the scheme of things. As I was saying a bit earlier, could have done this sort of Apollo style, but just would have been a lot of fuss. Also, once obviously we'd left the moon, you'd have to worry about sort of orbital rendezvous. Oh, there's the arch, the infamous arch. If I'd have remembered that and planned it a little better, we could have gone out and had a look there. So we are coming down in the East Crater. That's what it's called. Yes, how had I done an Apollo style launch. Of course, this would have been past the point where the command module pilot would have said goodbye to his counterparts, and as they began their descent down to the surface of the moon. It's interesting. Something I read was that Michael Collins, the command module pilot, I'm going to start thrusting just to try and take the worst of our descent velocity off there. Actually, we're coming quite hard. I think get that down to about 150. Detach that. Fire up that engine. And then start on this. Let's get those landing legs down. There we go. Decent explosion there, bits of spacecraft go flying. We are going to want to just kill a bit more of our velocity. I'll come back to what I was saying about Michael Collins in a second. Where are we? Just as we come into land. Not making a brilliant job of it, but it'll do. I normally prefer to do sort of, well, I was about to say suicide burns, but they're not proper suicide burns. A proper suicide burns is just one continuous burn that ends as you touch the ground at exactly the right velocity. Oh, bit of wobble. Bit of wobble. More explosions. Bit more wobble. We're fine, so here we are on the surface. Where are we? Valentina? No, we're not going to get Valentina out straight away. We're going to start doing the science. Observe Materials Bay. Good place to start. No, what I was saying about Michael Collins, something I read about him, is just because of the orbital profile of the Apollo 11 command module whilst it was separated from the landing module, was such that they were further from the moon than they were in subsequent missions, and hence was further away from the landing site than the command module ever got in subsequent missions, which means that Michael Collins, as far as if what I read was accurate, has the record for being the furthest away that any human being has ever been from any other human being, which is quite an achievement. The world's loneliest man at one point. I mean, it sounds a bit tragic, but I'm sure it was sure it's an achievement nonetheless. I didn't do the mystery goo units. There we go. And there we go. Let's get that closed. That'll all be coming back with us. Right, so we just need to do the crew bits and pieces. Let's get our crew report from the East Crater. And then it's time for Valentina to make her journey out. Climb down a bit. We don't have ladders that go all the way down. Maybe should have done something about that, but I think with the in the moon's gravity, the manoeuvring pack should still be enough to get us to a soft landing and back up to this ladder. So here goes. Yeah, easy. Valentina touches down, and that's one small step for a Kerbal, one repeated reference from earlier in the series. Let's see. Yeah. Well, Valentina appears to be absolutely delighted here. Let's get her going for a bit of a walk around. Let's see what the EVA report is. The dust is getting everywhere. Sorry, Valentina, but, you know, you wanted to come and do this. Those are the little things you have to put up with. Let's plant a flag. There we go. Beautiful. Site name, I'm just going to call it East Crater. I don't do anything imaginative there, because just the flag on the ground sort of sets a marker that you can use in sort of like map view or just ordinary view, so you can sort of work out where you are and where you've already been. So it's just handy just to do that. And for our moon missions, the messages will just be congratulations in a variety of languages. So there we go. Starting off with, of course, with English. So you have done everything, I think, apart from take a surface sample. The sample contains a combination of breccia and melted materials. I assume, obviously, were this a real world, it would be similar to the Earth's moon. Well, because it's modelled on that. So it would contain sort of basalt and a variety of calcium and aluminium-rich minerals. Let's get a close grab. So you need to collect the data there. You have removed the data. Climb up there, climb aboard. And that is our mission complete, I think. I don't think I missed anything. We've got our little flag there, flying in the, well, decidedly not flying in the lack of breeze. So I think it is time for us to head on out. Let's just check where I am, just look at the nav ball, see where I need to head off to once we get up into, I would say, the sky. Or the air, but I don't think either of those are appropriate on the moon. So there we go, and as a bonus, I don't have to muck about with any orbital orbital rendezvous or anything like that. Yeah. This is going to be coming back with us. I don't want any extra mass in the landing bit, so I can go and transfer that back into here. I'll just click out and out. There we go. So that is that done. Our little return capsule is as light as it can be. I should have done that a little earlier, sort of, but it's a pain to do it whilst you're coming down, because it just means, let's stop thrusting like that. Start pointing it towards the horizon to thrust. Just makes it a little more efficient as we get on up to sort of get our up-axis up to its final altitude. What was I saying? Yeah, I could have done that earlier. Sort of would have made the vehicle less top-heavy, lowered its centre of gravity and all that. But I can thrust a lot more aggressively than that. I'm not sure why I'm doing that. But yeah, it's a bit of a faff. How's our altitude doing? 19,000, 20,000. I think we'll go for that 25,000 mark, just to give us an extra notch on the time acceleration should we need it. And there we are. Let's time accelerate forwards to get towards our apoapsis as it is, and then we can circularize and then start planning for the journey home. Yeah, that all went surprisingly well. I suppose I should tuck... Oh no, we're time accelerating. I can't tuck those landing legs in. Not to worry. It's we're going to ditch this part anyway. It just looks neater. You know, it's the aesthetic of this thing sometimes. Now we can get those away. Now we can point prograde. Now we can just start thrusting. Just gently to start with, just to start picking that up. And then as we get closer to the apoapsis, start thrusting a bit more aggressively. There we go. That will do. Let's try and... yeah, there we go. And where are we? We are going behind the moon. We want to go behind the moon. We want to get to about there before we do our transfer burn. So the good thing about going in this sort of the free return trajectory is you can just get around the other side of the planet and thrust, and you're sort of guaranteed to get a nice neat transfer like that. Not the free return trajectory is not the most fuel efficient way to do it, but makes things a little easier. I don't know why I'm fine-tuning it here actually, because we'll just probably just get round and do the fine-tuning whilst we're actually doing the burn. So round we come. A little faster. Can't go faster than 100 times whilst below 50,000. Well, there we go. Let's get to there. We want to point prograde. We are roughly in the right place. I'm not going to bother too much about the actual maneuver node, because I know we just need to thrust prograde at about this point, and we will make our way back to Kerbin. Here we go. Apoapsis rising any second now. And the periapsis, the Kerbin periapsis, comes right down here, going for about... well, about that actually. That was handy. Okay. So we bid goodbye to the moon, our first proper visit there. And we make our way back towards Kerbin, and I think we're going to be coming down on the day side, which will be nice. So as we return to Kerbin, we return to 4 times time acceleration and a recap format. Once again, you've seen this before, plus this video's running a little long, and after a couple of overruns in some videos in this series, I'm trying to keep a bit of a lid on it at the moment. But anyway, we do indeed come down on the day side of the planet before we touch down in a surprisingly lush and green-looking bit of grasslands before we get to the serious business of learning how much science we've actually harvested. And it turns out it's a little over 500, giving us almost 670 in total. More than enough to kickstart our little housekeeping missions, but those will have to wait for another episode. We've run out of time here today, so until then, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time.